Daya? Okay, she seems to be having some sort of issues over there. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me see if I can. Okay, Daya, are you around? Never mind.
Daya Mukesh has arrived. Is it the
Uh,
Daya
he,
you're looking
she's,
for?
yes, yes. She has some network
She's
issues.
joined.
That is
She's
why.
joined.
No, she joined and she left. That is why. Uh, I think we will proceed. Let her get in as and when is possible. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Lata ma'am, Geetu, Nithya, and my dear students. Am I audible?
Yes, you
Hello.
are Anupama.
Yes. Welcome all of you to this event or this workshop on Write It Right. This was a quickly conceived idea of a workshop. I guess we'll talk about that later on. But without wasting much time, I would like to move on to Geetu for the welcome address so that we can officially commence the program. Geetu, over to you.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon, one and all. Respected Principal Dr. Rita Lada Dikoto, our resource person for the day, Dr. Nithya Mariam John, our vibrant coordinators, Dr. Anupama Verma, Divya Mary Varghese, Chitra S., librarian and coordinator of the Readers Club, all my dear colleagues and students who are the focus of this program. I would like to begin with a quote by Brené Brown, the famous American author and professor, who says, "Creativity is the way I share my soul with the world." And when you come to creative writing, it is that art where our food for thought transforms itself into our thought for food. We always think about what it is that the world wishes to hear, and rarely about what it is that we would like to say. Finding one's unique creative voice in this diverse world can be a challenging affair. And that's what makes writing equally attractive and challenging. During the lockdown times, it was creativity in action when our students decided they had something to say and that a tangible product should be born out of it. We are extremely proud that we are having our much awaited e magazine release before this workshop. Now, I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Nithya Mariam John, Assistant Professor, Department of English, BCM College, Kottayam, who is also an avid reader and poet. Her translations and poems have been published in journals including Kendra Sahitya Academy's Indian Literature and Kerala Sahitya Academy's MLS, Indian Ruminations and News India. Her collections of poetry is titled Bleeds and Roars. She edited Pen Ink, an anthology of English and Malayalam poetry by college students and teachers. She was also one among the editors and translators of Vaidehide Cherukadagal. A multi-talented YouTuber and blog writer, her blog is named Miri. We are very fortunate to have you amongst us. Welcome, Dr. Nithya Mariam, to our midst.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Geetu. Thank you.
I also take this opportunity to welcome our dear principal, Dr. Rita Lada Dikoto, who is our guiding light and inspiration behind all our activities. Dear ma'am, we welcome you wholeheartedly to this gathering.
Thank you, Geetu.
A hearty welcome to the coordinators of the event, Dr. Anupama Verma, Ms. Divya Mary Varghese, and Chitra S., who have taken great efforts to make this event a reality. Welcome, dear Anupama, Divya, and Chitra. A special mention about Sharon, who inspired us to make this into an event. A heartfelt welcome to all the members of the Department of English who have been a tremendous support, and a very warm welcome to students who have made this magazine a dream come true, and all our student community. This is a golden opportunity for you. and make the best out of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I now invite our respected principal, Dr. Rita Lata Dikuto, to deliver the principal's address.
Esteemed resource person of the day, Dr. Nithya, Head of the Department of English, Geetu, Coordinator there, and Coordinator of the program, Dr. Anupama, my very dear students, good afternoon to all of you. I was so excited when Anupama told me about this venture. That is, it's a two-in-one thing, I think. It's a creative writing workshop coming up today by a very eminent resource person, Dr. Nithya. I was telling Anupama that I found her bio extremely impressive because she seems to be a writer in her own right and not just an academic. And she seems to be the right person to ignite our young minds on creative writing. As we know, it's said that a large percentage of the population suffer from this disease, I may say, of wanting to write. I think all of us are no exception. That is, so many years ago, I think in 1946, George Orwell had given in his essay, I think, Why I Write, different reasons why people want to write. One of them, I think he said, it was a desire to be remembered, and also to get your back on adults who might have subdued you in childhood. He also cited other reasons like aesthetic enthusiasm, the pleasure of hearing the impact of sound on another, the pleasure of taking pleasure in the rhythm of a good story or the beauty of prose. And he also said about the desire to preserve things for posterity and sometimes even to make a political statement. These were reasons given so many years ago for why people want to write. And I think these same reasons may still be holding good now. And in addition to this, I think all of us, we may be having this desire to write something, sometimes for ourselves, maybe just a journal in which we scribble down our thoughts and our experiences of life. Because I think whatever life throws at you, or the things we deal with, they become much more easy to deal with and understand when we put them down in writing. Yes, so that could be one reason why we sometimes write, even though we are not proactive enough to see whether we could actually get our work published, like some, like Dr. Nithya and others are. We may not be taking that leap, but we still take pleasure in writing. Yes. And there could also be many other reasons, sometimes, to just make a statement. Because when we talk, there may be dissenting voices to tell us that this is not it. But when we write, we are maybe kings or queens in our own world. And we can say what we want to say, we can impact, we can try to, put our voice out or say what we mean without people, telling us that this may not be true. Sometimes I think that is one reason why we like to write. It may also be to make sense of the gray areas of life. In a world where often things are seen as black or white, when the process of writing helps us to make peace with the conflicts and the contradictions of life. And Facebook or we're writing. The process of writing sometimes helps us to make sense of what we really think. And in the chaos of life, this sort of brings a peace, a sense of peace, a sense of meaning, right? So, I mean, those could be reasons why the others were sitting here in this meet and going to be listening to Dr. Nithya sharing her thoughts and writing. I'm sure many of you have many times written for some of these reasons and for some other good reasons of your own. And today is to the budding writers who are here, I would like to say that there never has been such a good time for people who want to be writers, because now we have self-publishing. And if you want to tell your story to the world, there's always a way to do that. And I would just like to say one or two things which I've heard writers share, and which I also think it's true of writing. That if there are some of you who are thinking of writing, the thing to do would be to write regularly and have the courage to write badly in the beginning, because unless if you want to write regularly, I've heard authors say that if you want to write regularly, you have to be willing to write badly. But many of us, having this desire to be perfect at the first go, we don't always take that step. And sometimes I'm amazed to see very established writers say how they've struggled with their writing in the initial stages. And now they had to write badly for so long before they could write well. Okay, so another thing which today I was listening to a video which Anupama had shared with me. I found it very interesting, Dr. Nithya's video on Read, 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 it was called. And I think that is something, it's a must hear or a must listen for all the people who are here. Because the importance of reading is really for a writer, because without reading, I think reading is a nourishment which really should be feeding our writing. It doesn't mean that you copy what you read in other books. No, it's unless you read at the level at which you want to write, I don't think your writing is really going to take off in any way. So without this nourishment, without this constant reading, in that video, Dr. Nithya was sharing stories of very, very busy people, famous people, people we would think would never have a minute to spare for reading, but they were all shared. I mean, she was sharing in that how much time each person spends in reading. So I think we can never say enough about reading, because reading helps us to grow as a person. And it also, if you are a person who wants to write, it really would be helping you on your journey. I think she is going to be sharing so much more about that with you. So I'm really very, very happy for this initiative which is being taken by the PG Department of English. And along with this workshop, we have something very special happening today. And you know, the lockdown time is a time when people it was a period of creativity for most. For some of us who had never done much cooking in our life, it was a time we were really experimenting with creatively in the kitchen too. Some others were experimenting with their writing. I know some friends of mine who came up with books during that period. And I think our the postgraduate students of the Department of English, they had embarked on this creative venture of writing down stories, poems, etc., on the theme of the lockdown, okay, during the COVID times. And I hear that a resource person has also contributed to this venture of theirs. So today is that special day when the word really becomes flesh, or shall we say the word is being released on this digital platform today by a resource person, Dr. Nithya. I must congratulate all the students and teachers who took part in this initiative and who really made this journal come out. Okay, this e-magazine, the word come out, and what we're going to see today really makes me very happy to be a part of this very special occasion. So I congratulate each of you. We're waiting for the moment when Dr. Nithya will be releasing the magazine, and also for that very fruitful time she'll be spending with our budding writers. And if they are not yet budding writers, I'm sure they are going to want to write something after this workshop. Of course, a workshop by itself cannot make you a writer, but it can possibly plant that seed in you, which really make you, cultivate the discipline which is required to become a writer. Because without discipline, talent is by itself doesn't work, right? So a very good afternoon to all of you. I will not take any more time from our resource person. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Have a very good day and an enriching session. Thank you. So I think we'll be moving over to the release now.
Thank you, ma'am. As Geeta ma'am had mentioned earlier, the students of First and India MA English had put together a magazine about their experiences during the lockdown period. I invite Dr. Anupama Verma of the English department to speak a few words about the same.
Thank you so much, Daya. Respected ma'am, Lata ma'am, Geetu, and my dear Nithya, my colleagues from the department, and my dear students. Very briefly, I would like to tell you about the origin of this magazine. It was a sudden brain wave. I'm sure my second MA and first MA students would remember the day. I had put this notification in classroom because at the back of my mind, I had this idea, okay, in a few months, people are going to ask, what did you do during Corona time? You needed an answer for that. And plus a fun activity. And I thought, second MA especially, they were just fresh out of learning about Anthropocene and climate change and everything. We had huge debates in class about that. As far as English students are concerned, I understand our encounter with the pandemic is maybe restricted to the plagues of medieval times and the Great Plague of England. And here comes something that is happening like a live action drama around you. You're witnessing it. It's not textbook stuff. It is not breaking news on TV. It is something that is happening in your immediate reality. Maybe once in a lifetime event. So worth making part of a discourse which no doubt is emerging as a pandemic discourse. Already a series of webinars and lots of other programs concerning a pandemic and other corona discourses are in the offing. So why not we also contribute to that emerging discipline? That is when I thought maybe they should write about their experiences, because lockdown was something so unheard of, something new for each one of us. It is worth recording whatever you felt. And I would like to borrow the phrase that Lata ma'am just used, to make sense of what we think. Most of us write to make sense of what we think. And I'm sure all of us had lots of thoughts and feelings as we were going through this very novel phase called lockdown. And I asked these children to come up with something original, be it a poem, a short story, essay, anything about corona, and about not about corona as such, about lockdown. And amazingly, I was very surprised, and I'm immensely grateful to all those 16 in first MA and 17 in second MA for having contributed so promptly, and with so much of avid interest, as they would do an official assignment. I thought, okay, let us now make this into a magazine. So once I got everything, and then a cosmetic editing was done, I sent it to Daya and just asked her to make it into a PDF. Let us make it a magazine. I only asked her to convert it into a PDF magazine. And the product that she came up with was mind. mind blowing, so to speak. I did not expect it to be like that. She sat, and the layout and the other kinds of designing that she did with the magazine was solely her contribution. And the cover page was actually designed by Jesslyn B. Jason of Second MA. I just told her to draw something related to Corona, and she came up with this, which was so apt for the theme and for the activity, for everything. So that is how the word came up. And then I were talking about bringing a title, and none of us could reach any conclusion regarding that, because we didn't know what title to put, what fancy title. We couldn't think of anything, because already most of the Corona vocabulary was so much of daily a part of daily conversation. We didn't want to repeat that, so we simply stuck to something as direct and as straightforward as the word. And yes, the word constitutes a lot of things, and it's solely first MA and second MA. I would like to place on record my sincere and my heartfelt thanks to these students of mine who actually changed the entire idea of this magazine. I did not ever intend it to be this big. And a big thanks to Sharon for inspiring this, because when I showed her the magazine, she insisted that this has to be released, which was not never anywhere in any of my thought processes about releasing it or sending it outside or anything like that. And that is how this program came up. Sharon wanted to release this magazine, and I thought, okay, why not make it into a writing workshop? And I couldn't think of anyone better than Nithya here, and she too contributed very willingly. When the magazine was in the initial stages, I simply told her, why don't you give me an article? We are planning an e-magazine. She herself was so enthusiastic. I go, okay, no, we are not doing anything big. But then finally, it turned out to be something like this. And again, thanks to Sharon, I could really, get up a program around this on creative writing, on writing in general, the part one of which is happening today. And yeah, that is how it all came about. I'm so happy about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I now invite our guest of the day.
Okay, Nithya, if you could share your screen with the magazine, so that and declare it officially released.
Sure, sure. Can you see the screen?
No.
I think the
Hello?
video is not on. The
Now it is.
video is not on.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, yes. Yes, could you please scroll it up?
Sure, sure. So I officially declare the e-magazine titled The Word released. And I take this opportunity to congratulate the department, the students and teachers, and everybody who worked behind this e-magazine and made it into something which can be considered as a product of, locking down yourself inside a room and then coming out with something which is quite beautiful that you can always remember. Congratulations to the Department of English and to everybody who worked behind the e-magazine.
Nitya, could you show the last page for all the contributors?
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah, so this is the team behind this magazine, and I once again I thank each one of you for making this possible. It was totally unimagined. Anyway, thanks a lot. All right, shall we move on to Nitya then?
Okay.
There.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Creative writing is one such thing that does not require much space and cost. It is something that can be cooked up organically at home. I invite our dear Nithya ma'am to to start on with her class.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, okay. I hope you can see the slides too.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Daya. Thank you, Ria ma'am, for your wonderful words. It was really inspiring because I should admit that I'm not a professional writer or a poet. I'm also an amateur in the field. And but thank you so much for watching the videos and giving me a critical review of the same. Um, uh, and thank you, Anupamaji. I call her Anupamaji because we met in one of the conferences, and she's one of those people who always I've found one of those people who are passionate about writing and reading and experimenting with language. And it's not a surprise that our students have come out with such a beautiful e-magazine. I take this opportunity to congratulate the students and Anupama and all the teachers again for such a venture. Thank you so much to the department for giving me such an opportunity to share my thoughts about creative writing with you. Um, as I said in the very beginning, I'm not a professional in this area, but of course, I do love writing and reading. I do try to, give enough feed to our students at BCN College so that many of them are really, really talented, and they would definitely, if you give them a spark, they'll definitely come out as the best writers, I believe. So as teachers, we always try to give them enough material, enough push to kind of hone their skills in writing. And as the principal rightly pointed out, I should say that reading is the first step to writing, whether it be creative or critical. You should always have a strong base in reading if you really want to experiment with writing. So, I mean, the reason is, I'm not saying that only readers become, people with a passionate heart or the sahridayas. Of course, there are people who have not or who are not much into reading, but they are the most gentle and noble souls you can ever meet. The reason must be because they got much more life experiences, and I would say, as you know uh, I mean, members of this particular generation, you and I, we have very little life experiences. So we better try to make it up with all the reading experiences that we can. And that is the only way in which we can produce something. That is the only way in which we can express something. It's not simply about expression. Writing is not merely an expression activity. There is a lot of strain which goes into writing. Often, what happens is that we take creative writing for granted, that we think it's such an easy affair. No, it is not. It's such a sometimes it can even be a horrible experience because you sit down to write and nothing comes. You want to write, and you have all the ideas in the mind, but you really don't know how to put it on a piece of paper, and you feel that you are the most insignificant person in the world, that you have mastered literature. Maybe you are an MA literature student, maybe you have a PhD, but still you cannot even write down one story. I mean, that is such a horrible experience, I should say. But if you're willing to, give yourself some time, if you're willing to put in effort and practice, and share that if you are really passionate about literature, you can definitely become a creative writer. Now take this as something which comes from an amateur and not a professional. I repeat it again and again so that you won't misunderstand my words. So it's not from a pro but from an amateur. And I'm also learning to write. I should say I'm also learning to write. I've been writing for some time, that's true, but I also make mistakes related to vocabulary or grammar or the style. Sometimes, people, there are critics who have told me that your poem is not at all worth reading. I mean, there are people who have lovingly told me that you should edit your poem. At the same time, there are also people who have told me, who have supported me, who have encouraged me, saying that you have done a good job. Okay, it all. I mean, everybody has helped me, both the critique and the supporters. So I should say, writing is a never-ending process. You keep learning all the time. You learn, you unlearn, and you relearn, and that is the only way in which you can write it right. I mean, that is your how your workshop has been titled by the teachers, maybe probably by Anupama. Uh, if you want to write it right, and when I say when you say right, I would also like to add that there is no one way of writing. I mean, there is no one right in writing. There can be several rights. It's open ended. Okay. So, when you want to write it right and when you want to create a space for yourself, I guess the first thing that we should all be ready to is to unlearn. Many things we have learned from LKG onwards, like from our school, from our teachers, from college, from from our families. We have all learned little things about writing. This is how one should write. This is how one should read. But we should always be ready to unlearn, because that is a first step, I would say, to create your own writing space. Now, with that basic introduction, I guess I'll move into the presentation. Uh, um, since I can see only my screen, I can see only the PPT. So, is it visible? I mean, I cannot see anybody. I cannot see the Google Meet or not even the icons. So, is it visible? Is it still visible? Is it okay? Can I move to the next slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. I cannot see the chat box, so if you have any questions, we can definitely have it at the end of the session. But if you want something clarified in between, please unmute your mic and ask, because I cannot see the screen. So, what exactly is creative writing? Now, creative writing has been defined differently by different people, and I've actually put together random ideas which I got when I read about creative writing, or whatever I maybe watched on YouTube on creative writing, whatever I Googled on creative writing, whatever I got from the library. So basically, I guess from what I read, creative writing is about producing an original work. When I say an original work, I don't mean that to be original you need not depend on anybody else. Like it's not something which you can simply pull out from the air. You should definitely stand on the shoulders of the giants. I mean, if you want to bring out something new, then you should know what is old. Okay, you should have an idea about how writers, maybe poets or essayists or novelists, have worked on, developed the same idea in one of the texts. And that is the only way in which you can form a style of yourself. Okay, so being original does not mean not having any connection with the old and not intending to have any connection with what can come after you. Being original means, getting yourself ready and getting yourself armored with whatever that is there and getting yourself ready to become part and parcel of whatever that will come after you. Okay, so that is that particular intertextual process. Maybe if you are, if of course you are all literature students, you are familiar with the term intertextuality. So you can consider yourself or your work to be an intertext, something which has got something which goes before and also after you. So originality is not about bringing something new, not depending on someone else, but of course you should have an idea about the basic idea has been treated by people who have gone before you, and you should be also able to contribute to something, or your work should also be able to inspire somebody who will come after you. And then originality would I would say, personally speaking, I would say you let originality not be bound by academic parameters. See, workshop criticism is fine. I'm not saying that T.S. Eliot was a bad poet. T.S. Eliot was one of the exemplary poets, I would say. But if you are a critique, if you know criticism, if you are reading criticism, if you are so much into critical theory, then when you try to become a creative writer, that can be in one way or the other a hindrance in the path. Because you write down one line or maybe one paragraph of a story, then you will sit and edit the line. You will keep on correcting the line. I come to this particular writer's block thing at the end of the slide, but still I think I should mention it now. So you will kind of think about correcting it again and again. And what happens in the end is that you will always be stuck with that one sentence or with that one line or with that one paragraph without being able to move forward. Okay, I hope you're familiar with Ben Okri. Now, I had the good fortune to listen to Ben Okri a couple of years ago at Jaipur Literature Festival. And this is what he said. He said, after writing down a poem, Ben Okri just leaves that poem alone for 6 months. He doesn't, kind of publish it then and there on social media as you and I do. He does not share it with anyone. Maybe only with very, very, very close confidants, so that he'll kind of get a feedback about the poem. That's it. And then after writing it down, after completing the poem, after whatever he wanted to express, he expresses. He just leaves it for 6 months, and it is during these 6 months that he sits and edit. When you write down something, if you keep on editing and editing and editing without letting yourself be expressed, you will never be able to produce what you really want to. There won't be an end. And there should be an end somewhere. Okay, even if that end is to be postponed or deferred, that end should be there. Okay, so this academic parameter thing is actually something which I guess should take a little backseat when you are into producing an original work. And it is something which should be, and all that has gone into the making of a poem, all that has gone into the making of a story, that all comes under your creativity, that all comes under your creative spirit. And it is also your ability to run against the normal. See, normal is always the majority. Good creative writers do not belong to the majority. I'm so sorry to say, if you want to walk with the majority, you will never become a good creative writer. So you should deliberately have to walk against the norms. You should deliberately have to experiment with words. You should definitely have to experiment with a style that you are familiar with, that readers are familiar with. If you want to bring a trademark for yourself, if you want to become an original writer. And that requires a lot of effort, and that requires a lot of background reading, and that definitely requires a lot of, courage, I would say, because your originality need not be appreciated at the time of production. See, you're all literature students, so you are familiar with metaphysical poetry. Metaphysical poets were not at all recognized. I mean, I wouldn't say not at all recognized. They were not recognized much. Actually, they were criticized a lot by the critics of their time when they wrote. But when you come to T.S. Eliot's time, when you come to 20th century, you find that people look forward to metaphysical poetry. And right now, there are many people who admire metaphysical conceits, who use metaphysical conceits in their writing. So metaphysical poets like John Donne or Groucho were not really admired when they wrote, but later, their originality was recognized. You need not be recognized at all when you live. Maybe it is because of the way in which you express yourself, which runs against the norms which have been prescribed by the critics. It doesn't matter. If you really believe in yourself, just keep writing like Emily Dickinson did. She wrote and wrote and wrote, 800 plus poems. None of them got published when she was alive. It all came out only after her death. And she wrote experimentally too. Okay, she experimented with the style of the poem. She wrote concrete poems. So it's all about producing an original work. And it is all about experimenting with what has already been established. It is all about something which is something with which you can walk against the norms of the society, norms of the literature, norms of whatever that has been established, so as to kind of put a mark for yourself, put a trademark of yourself on the writing. Now, I'm sure that this is a very familiar picture which you find on the internet. If you don't mind, because I am not receiving, I'm not seeing you. I do prefer, teaching you face to face, but Corona times is actually limited our physical, intimacy in classes. I miss my students a lot because now it was only during Corona times that I realized how much of a human to human, contact that particular contact was involved in classrooms. Classrooms are all vacant right now in our college, and whenever I go and sit in one of those classes, I just wish that these times get over and students are back in class. So since if you don't mind, can one or two students please unmute your mic and let me know what you think about this picture? I've given due credits to from whatever site I got the picture, because that is also important these days, and that is also very important as a creative writer or thinker. You are not supposed to plagiarize. So when I say you should, follow your leaders, I don't mean that you should copy your leaders without acknowledging them. Acknowledgement is important, I guess. So can somebody please unmute your mic and let me know what you think about, or what you really feel when you look at this picture? What is there anything special in this picture? Can you kind of relate to it in any way? Anybody, if you don't mind. Teachers or students or whoever is listening, you can all.
My answer?
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Can I answer?
Yeah, sure. Your name, please. I can't see who's talking, so your
Yeah.
name, please.
Oh, I'm Daya, okay.
There, okay, there.
Yeah, so when you look at this image, the first thing that comes to your mind is that one of the paper boats is moving away from the set path. It's going in its own way, like it's not following the other.
Okay. One of the paper boats is moving away, not following the others. Thank you there. Is there anything else that you want to add on to it, or?
Ma'am, can I?
Sure, your name, please.
My name is Namrata.
Okay, Namita.
I think the same string as they are told, we can connect it to life. Taking a different path in life, often people will judge, but we have our own path and we just follow that.
Okay, thank you. What you wanted to convey was that difference. You bring in a different style. You bring in a different path. You pave a different way for yourself. Thank you so much. Thank you for the feedback, both of you. See, I was preparing this PPT when my 4-year-old daughter just peeped in, and she saw this picture. She doesn't read. Okay, she hasn't started reading or writing or anything of that sort. Anyway, she saw the picture, and she looked at me and she asked me, "What is it?" And I asked her, "What do you think it is?" So she looked at it for some time, and then um, she said that it is just like I and my friends, we used to, when we went to Montessori, we used to do running race. Okay, I was surprised because I didn't really think that she could associate that running race with the image over here. Anyway, I said okay, and then she said that she couldn't identify it as a paper boat or anything. Okay, so she said one particular thing does not want to take part in the running race. Okay, അതിന് ഇഷ്ടമല്ലാത്തത് കൊണ്ട് അത് വേറെ വല്ലതും കളിക്കാൻ പോയി. And I guess that is the answer. It's basically, you can call it a race, I guess. All boats are involved in a boating race. Okay, and there is a first one, that's the second one, there is a third one coming in, and then the red one felt, why in the world am I participating in this race? I am not supposed to be here at all. Here, why should I get myself involved in this rat race? Let me take a different course, a different course which can definitely make me a better human being, which can definitely make the world better. So I guess creativity, the first step to creativity, I would say, is that courage to think differently, to take a different course. Now, thinking differently is something which we all have heard about many, many times from your teachers, from your, maybe from your friends, maybe on YouTube, on social media. This thinking outside the box is something which we are all familiar with. Look at the picture which I got. I mean, this is a picture which is quite random on social media platforms. You find it on Pinterest, you find it on Insta, you find it on several other platforms. It's think outside the box thirsty, and look at that picture. That picture shows the picture of a butterfly. Okay, but look at the line. Complete the picture below. It is not a butterfly. Okay, what did we learn in LKG and UKG and maybe in first standard and second standard? When we had drawing classes, I remember having drawing classes, and I was horrible in drawing, and I'm still horrible in drawing. Okay, but I like to play with colors. I like to play with colors, and that is the only reason why sometimes I simply randomly pick my paint brush and a box of colors, and I just mix the colors because I like to look at the colors. Okay, but I'm always a terrible when it comes to drawing. I'm not a good artist at all. But that line is something which should make you think differently. It is not a butterfly. Then what are the other possibilities? In our preschool days, I mean, and also in our LP school and all, we were actually taught to look at the picture, copy the picture, color the picture exactly as it is. I still remember my drawing master telling me, you have not shaded it as it is in the picture, so you won't get full marks. Okay, so we were all taught right from a very young age that we are supposed to follow the norm. But what are the other possibilities? I mean, can anybody just kind of unmute your mic and give me at least one or two possibilities of completing this picture? What do you think you can draw um, uh, if you want to complete that incomplete picture?
You could draw a fish.
A fish, good.
Tail.
Of course, a fish. Then any other possibility?
Flower.
I couldn't hear. I mean, I didn't hear that. Could you please repeat?
Flower.
Flower. Okay, a flower. Okay, sure. You can draw a flower. Anybody? Any other ideas?
A sleeping rabbit.
Wow, a sleeping rabbit. Very good. Then. See, I showed this picture to one of my friends, and I mean, I just WhatsApped it, and he said, you can draw an upturned flower pot. And I didn't think of such a possibility. It's true. You can draw an upturned flower pot if you want with that image. See, this is called thinking differently. And four of you have already thought differently from, drawing a butterfly, differently from the already existing image, which means you had started thinking creatively. Being a creative thinker or thinking differently does not mean that you should be the top scorer. It does not mean that you should be a rank holder. I'm so sorry, I don't have anything against rank holders. I do appreciate their efforts, but it does not necessarily mean that you should always be at the top of the class and that you should be somebody who submits assignment on time, etc. But I'm not a supporter of procrastination. You're all supposed to submit your assignments on time, and otherwise, you will be at peril. But when people who think differently, they procrastinate differently. They don't simply sit idly like you and I do. When we procrastinate, we just sit and take and while away our time as we would like, watching television without giving any thought to what we are supposed to do. But when originals procrastinate, they procrastinate differently because they are thinking all the time. Maybe the deadline is 15th. Even on the 14th, they have not come up with a presentation. But that doesn't mean that from the 1st to 14th, they were sitting idly. Actually, they were procrastinating differently. They were doing a different kind of procrastination. They were thinking about it. Maybe they were also reading a little bit about it. And they were thinking, they were in the process of thinking, and they bring it out on 15th, one of the beautiful presentations you would have ever found. So even when you procrastinate, if you are a creative thinker, you would procrastinate differently. There be a difference in a good original thinker. And I would say thinking differently can be considered as the first step to creativity because it's all your perspectives. If look at that picture. That picture will definitely make you want to draw a butterfly. If they had not written, it is not a butterfly. Okay. And that one liner widened your perspectives. When somebody, kind of brings a box to you and tell you this is not a box, that is the only time that you would start thinking about the possibilities. When somebody tells you, see, look at this, and you look at it and you identify the genre of writing as poetry, and then that person tells you it's not a poem, it's a story actually. Or somebody shows you a story and then you call it a story, and then that person says, no, originally it's not a story, it's a poem. It helps you to widen your perspectives. So if you really want to think differently, if you really want to think creatively, be ready to widen your perspectives. As I said in the very beginning, be ready to unlearn, because what you had learned all the time would have been completely wrong, and you would have to relearn it, and you don't know who's going to teach you how to write. Maybe it's a 4-year-old, maybe it's a 10-year-old, maybe it's somebody who's younger to you, maybe it's somebody who's not at all experienced as you are, maybe it's somebody who has not gone